Welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. This is the May meeting of the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association. I'm John Clarkson, the president. I want to welcome you here tonight. Tonight we're going to have a discussion, a business roundtable, although it may be a very small roundtable. One of our participants is still en route, I hope. But I want to go through a few announcements first. We have at least 4 board members absent tonight, including Perry Junjulis, Carolyn Keefe, Paul Lundberg, and Ron Szymanski, and a couple of others who may be joining us late. However, at the moment, we don't have a quorum, so we won't be taking any official actions tonight, which we usually don't do anyway. And our next meeting will be June 16th. We do not have meetings in July and August, but we hope to be back actually in person in September. We keep hoping that, and by September, it could actually happen. So there's where we are tonight. You know, it's been a tough couple of nights, a tough couple of weeks rather, in the neighborhood. As I think everyone knows, there were a number of incidents, including a fire on Hudson Avenue, a terrible shooting on Partridge Street, and a homicide on Washington Avenue, technically Bond, our neighborhood, but right on the border. And so these are upsetting, but we're very glad and grateful for the quick, successful action by the Albany Police Department. Arrests have been made in both those incidents. And it just seems that a lot of heavy news has landed on us, so I wanted to acknowledge that. We're going to keep doing what we always do, and that's working with Albany Police Department, with all the other city departments on neighborhood improvements. We're going to keep working on litter, improving, working with the code enforcement to try and keep all the rental housing up to snuff and do all that we can. Working on streetscape beautification issues, trees and greenery, all those things. And we'll just keep moving forward. But I did want to acknowledge the period of time we're in. So with that, unless there are other announcements from the board, I'd like to start. We have Marie Cambell from Blooms by Marie, excuse me, Marie, a wonderful flower shop on Madison Avenue that has been here a few years now and does a wonderful job. I know many of us have been your customers, but tonight we want to hear from you as a business person, which you are, a successful business person. Tell us your story, what works, what doesn't, and what you'd like to see in the neighborhood from the city. Well, what would it take to make your business flourish even more than it already is? So with that introduction, Marie, I'm going to go to you. Oops, you're muted, I'm afraid. Marie, we can't hear you. You may be muted.
Oh, there we are. Okay, sorry.
Good.
Good evening again, everyone. So I've actually been in this spot. I've been here for a little over a year. So I started in where the coffee shop was in September of last year, and then grew into it in December. And here I am. I actually started in front of my house, like some people knew, where I lived for 30 years in Pine Hills. That's on Lancaster, tip of Manning. And I'm thankful. This business has been very busy. I'm still here. I'm hoping I can get home before 1 a.m. Tonight. I'm grateful for the support. It's a lot of work. I think it's a gift from above. You know, I was a nurse for 35 years and went to corporate after doing adult medicine, OB med, for 29 years, close to 30, and I wanted to change, went into corporate, and really did not like, again, computers. I'm a people person, and it shows. You see the rate, and people will often say the customer service, that personal touch, just going a little out of the way, and I think it's really, really important, given having good products and fresh is a big thing. We don't do that as we used to anymore. And even as a nurse, I've always thought that I've trained a lot of nurses in Albany Med over the years. And I've always said, nursing is not as complicated as it is when you walk in that room and you see the A bed or the B bed, or if it's a private room, just treat people the way you'd like to be treated. So that person is either your mom, your sister, your dad, your brother, whatever the case may be, and you be okay. You got to be sincere. You got to be genuine. So I am involved in the community. I give a lot. I do give up. I give. I like to give, and so I think the more you give is the more you get. I think you cannot be involved unless you participate. So you can't always want to get. You also have to give. I'm still trying to iron out this donation. I'm considering for a school who wants 30 centerpieces. I do want to stay in business. That is quite a lot. But I saw. So it's nice to see the support from the neighborhood. It really is my community. I have Mike A. D'Italio. I think he's away now. He's also my neighbor across the street. Actually, it's more his backyard, and he loves it here. He loves Gerber Daisy, and he's been doing a little PR for me. Pictures taken and so on. He was involved in a big event that I will be doing next month with the Alpha Phi Alpha, which is a fundraising event. But then Mike decided he didn't want to walk in the fashion show, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. So again, I like to be involved in that when it comes to the community. I have 4 kids. I am divorced. My oldest worked for E-Trade. He lives in Maryland. He's getting married in September. My second one, Michael, is at Siena. In his 3rd year at and my Marlon is doing his 2nd year at Syracuse, will be going into his 3rd. And then my Maya, my youngest one, is doing her 1st year at Buffalo State Bowl, going into her 2nd. I guess the semester is over. I've always been involved with the school district. I had some that went to private, some went to public. I'm a community person. I also like to be a private person, but now I have Facebook because of business. It helps, but and I came from a very small island where I was raised by my dad, and it was one of those things that my dad was a broker, then he went into the army as a musician, and community was always a big thing. Where you live, you take care of it, you put pride in it. I still go outside with my broom, not a leaf blower, and pretty much sweep up in front of my shop. Keep that. I hope that does resonate with my kids as well, because there's a saying where I come from: you teach what you know, and you produce who you are. So with that said, here I am. I appreciate the business. I appreciate the support that I've been getting, and I don't want to get involved in the politics, but I am I'm fond of the mayor. Before Mayor Sheehan became a mayor, I've known her. Her son played football with my boys, and I support where I see positive things, and that's just who I am. It doesn't matter who you are. I got some slacks this last election, and again, where I come from, we don't see colors. It's can you do the job, and are you doing a good job? And that's it. So with that said, I am who I am. I'm a straight, hard person. Anyone who knows me from the school district know I've always been involved with the school. I sacrificed 19 years of my life working weekends so I could be home with my kids on weekdays. And as a single parent, I worked weekends at Albany Med as a nurse for long hours, but I was home with my kids where we could have family dinner and homework. So kind of give you a little story about me, and that's it.
That is very important. I confess there were times during my busy time working in state government and elsewhere that I wasn't always home for dinner or there as much, but it's very important. So Marie, let me ask you, you are doing well, and of course, you share very much with the community, and so we'd always love to see it doing even better. What things in your mind that could happen in the neighborhood would be a help to your business? What are the elements do you think that might make it better? I don't know, there have been, certainly we've done streetscape improvements and might do more. Would that be a big help, do you think, for Lower Madison where you are? And are there other things that would improve too? For example, the new apartment building, the Rise on Ontario. I don't know how many of those folks have become patrons, but I imagine some of them you probably don't know where everyone comes from when they come in your shop, right? But maybe you have an impression. So if you could talk a little bit about those two things.
I don't know where everyone comes from. I do have small talks with my clients, and I do get some support there as well as Albany Med. We have students who buy flowers. I'm in the business where folks just, again, flowers just gravitate. I said they're psychological, they're emotional. And so I don't know, John. I think we had this conversation the other day about what would help our community. I don't want to say it's lost. I just feel if you're going to start, it starts at a very young age. It starts, for me as a mom, my kids knew that college was not an option. They had to go to school. I had a son who started in a self-contained classroom, and I don't really discuss too much about it, but that was not an excuse. I worked very hard with him. I've had him tested to see how he learned, and he's my child who's at Siena doing his third year. I think, it's such a treacherous and sensitive topic. We want to improve our community. I think part of it is when we buy into it. Often when my kids were younger, I used to drive them downtown and Pearl Street, and I would say, you have a choice. This is where you could be, or you could do the work and improve yourself, go to college. And so I don't know. I just feel we are seeing things that at times we never thought we would see in this society. It's like my car was broken into a couple nights ago. And instead of just taking what you need, it ripped off my rear view mirror. Folks are just so destructive. There's no value. There's no moral. There's no ethics anymore. There's no sensitivity. And again, I'm just saying, it just seems that way. I think we have a long way to go with our community. I think we have to start at a very young age. There are parents who, again, you can't teach something if you don't know. You can't produce it if you don't have it to produce. It's almost like getting gold out of silver. You're not going to get gold because it's silver. I think it's a fight that we continue to fight. And I don't want to really use that word. I just feel we need to get everyone on board. Some folks think it doesn't affect us. It does. It affects everyone. When a child was telling your story, the child dropped his pizza outside, and I felt so bad. It was like, oh my God. And the mom said to me, well, you had a slice already. And then she left it on the ground and walked away. So who had to pick it up? I did, because it's in front of my shop. And that's what I mean. It's like, how do we get folks to buy into it? Where do we start?
Well, we do what we can, and I'm sure you and your neighbors pick up around your shops. We do a lot of neighborhood cleanups. We can't solve all the problems, but I will say that block of Madison seems to be doing a lot better than it was just a couple of years ago. So that's very encouraging. And I can't help but think your presence and some of the other businesses there is really helping. So that's encouraging to see. Are there other questions for Marie? Raise your hand, or just ask questions. That's how we normally do it anyway. But we are missing a few. And by the way, updates, as I was looking for another email, Will and Danielle cannot be here tonight either. So that gives us a total of six members who can't be here. Oh well, it's June. And Megan, I think Keegan is still running in the corporate challenge, but I know she'll be finishing and getting to us very quickly. So no questions, further questions for Marie? Okay. Well, Marie, thank you.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, John, I think my goal here, I often, sometimes we'll do pop-ups. I had a gentleman that was here last spring who sold plants. I mean, I sell plants, but it doesn't matter. And I think, showing some kindness and love and support, I think hopefully this will again become infectious, where we are able to spread it around and change things. And that's what, I have folks that walk into the shop. I had a lady that was there last week for 4 hours, literally 4 hours. And again, people will say it feels warm, it feels welcoming. And I will tell folks, this shop doesn't belong to me. It's a neighborhood shop. It's our community shop. You come in and I spend a lot of money on my windows, and Christmas, you see the 3 Christmas trees, and I'm not doing it necessarily for me or, but again, I want people to be able to walk by if you're having dinner next door and they have their kids with them and they celebrate that holiday, they can say, well, look at the teddy bears, or look at the Christmas tree, or look at the lights. Again, I think giving back some of those things will let folks understand that it's not all, it's not all gone. I mean, there's still kindness in this world. There's still love. And I think love will always overpower hate.
Absolutely.
Kindness will always overpower selfishness. So I will leave it there, and I will continue doing what I'm doing, because I think the more you give is the more you get. And hopefully we will see some improvement in our community, that is.
Well, thank you, Marie. That's a nice note to close on, and your shop for all of us is a very warm and welcoming place, so we appreciate that. You're welcome to stay if you'd like to hear all the committee reports and that, or you can depart if you have other things to do, which I know you want to do.
I will.
Yes, Will just made it.
Yeah, I think she didn't she say she's going to be at the shop until 1 in the morning? So I think she has other things to do.
We don't want to make you, because if you add another hour, that's going to be 2 in the morning. That's too late, right?
It is too late.
All right, so we will bid adieu, but thank you for joining us. It was wonderful to hear from you today and earlier when I stopped by the shop. So thanks for joining us tonight.
The same here, and I hope all is well, John, and the flowers
Absolutely. Thank you.
that bring some comfort. So, all right. Okay. Bye, everyone. Nice seeing you. Take care. Bye, Will.
Marie. Okay. Hi, Will. Thanks for joining us. I knew that you and Danielle had a conflict. I forgot to note at the beginning, but I'm glad you could make it. So we're now to the committee and officer reports. I have heard from Luke Rumsey, who may be able to join us. If he cannot, I have his notes and report, which I will share from briefly. But since he's not here yet, unless he snuck in, no. Why don't we go to public safety? We have Joe Acquaviva, Officer Acquaviva, and Dan Webster. I don't know who's going to, and Dan Johnson as well.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? It's been kind of busy in Pine Hills, and we had an arson. We do have suspects that we know of. I know that the arrests haven't been made yet, but they have been identified. And I'm assuming that that's going to be coming soon. The shooting on Partridge, an arrest was made. Actually, 2 arrests were made for that. And so that's one that we don't have to to worry about them being out there anymore. It was actually really advantageous the way the detectives worked and were able to identify a suspect and go out and make that arrest. And then recently over the weekend, we did have another shooting involving a SUNY student, which my understanding, I talked to detectives today. They have a suspect on that. They're putting that case together. And as I was told today, they feel that that's probably going to be, they're probably going to be arresting that within the next week. Is there anything that I haven't covered that somebody's is on somebody's mind that they're thinking about or concerned about?
The arson you referred to, is that the Hudson Avenue fire?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, because it wasn't initially identified as arson. So there've been, could you tell us a little more about that?
So early in the morning, Sunday morning, last Sunday, not this one that just passed, but the week prior, apparently the riff on the street is that it's like an ex of one of the residents of the home was angry and apparently went there with somebody else and lit something on fire, threw it on the porch, which then made the entire house go up, and then it took the house next to it. So we do have I believe the entire incident is on video. We have the entire incident on video. We have identified the two people that were involved. My understanding is that they have left the area, and so it's just a matter of locating them and arresting
Okay.
them.
All righty. Other questions?
So thanks, Joe, and thanks to the detectives for their, as usual, amazing work. Really appreciate it.
And I haven't forgotten about the shots fired incident either, Leah. I spoke to the detectives today. Again, I can tell you which detective has that case. I know that they're working on some stuff, but as of yet, I know that there haven't been any arrests made.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I know that the last time I spoke to neighbors, which was, now about a little over a month ago, but the last time that I spoke to the folks that live, right in that area, they were interested in, meeting with APD just to talk about what happened and how to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen. And now we've had further violence. So it's kind of, at this point, that was not, at this point, it's like nobody was injured in that case. And now we've had, 2 cases in the past 10 days where there were injuries as a result of a shooting. So I guess it's, we may want to just do something at some point about that. But
Yeah,
thanks.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, then I guess we'll move to zoning and code enforcement. Rick?
There is little to nothing happening with BZA or planning board to the extent that they actually canceled next week's meeting. Nothing for
Spring
us.
lull. Okay. Leah, I believe you're doing Midtown Pine Hills tonight.
Oh yeah, I didn't hear you say Midtown Pine Hills, or I would have. Sorry.
I
would have said
yet.
something.
I started with you, but I'm just looking at my list.
Oh. Okay. Yes. So the Midtown Pine Hills Committee had not met for a while, but then we had a combo April-May meeting on May 2nd, where we discussed the potential pilot project to address blacktop and lack of trees and greenery on Hudson Avenue. We also discussed the fact that we've been sending out pushing out trash messages on social media, and we'll be working on evaluating that and, you know, figuring that out. There is no meeting next week. So what, you know, normally the committee meets the fourth Wednesday, but we combined April and May to have that May 2nd meeting. So our final meeting for anybody who wants to come to the amazing Midtown Pine Hills committee meeting will be Monday, June 27th at 6:30, and you can send us an email to get an invite. And, you know, just send an email to whatever address you see on the website, I guess. And we can figure out that will get routed to the right person so we can send you an invite to the meeting. And that's it. Oh no, one more thing. We're hoping to get some events going in the fall, We're not sure what. And of course, that is also dependent on COVID, among other issues. And that's it. Any questions on Midtown Pine Hills?
Are there any
Thanks, Leah.
on the
Will.
ARPA application?
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. There aren't actually, but I think many, you guys are aware of it, but we have been talking about a pilot project on 2 blocks of Hudson and 2 blocks of Quail, where the asphalt between the sidewalk and the street, or the blacktop rather, would be removed and be replaced with trees, greenery, and perhaps decorative hardscape in certain areas. It's a big part of neighborhood improvement, beautification. It's a big environmental impact as well, because having a totally paved in area changes dramatically the temperature and the atmosphere of a block. It also contributes to increased stormwater runoff and a lot of issues like that. And the city has acknowledged for some time now that these strips should be removed, but you know, it takes a while. They have removed them in some neighborhoods, and they're going to work their way around the city eventually. But we've been pointing in particular to these blocks, which are, I still have to say predominantly, there are one or two owner-occupied homes on those blocks, but they're rental almost entirely. And you have a different challenge there when you're looking to put in and maintain trees and greenery. But we've been talking about it for a while. We applied for a county grant, which we're still technically in the running for. And we applied for some of the ARPA funds, which we've moved on to the second round. And I'm not quite sure whether there are 2, 3, or 4 rounds. There's, you know, an iterative process, but we're very encouraged. We worked with DGS in talking about the second round. We've talked with others in city government, and we're very hopeful that we can get some funding. It's more funding that's going to go to DGS and the city for things that, you know, can sometimes come out of their budget, but simply more funds are needed. And we're also excited about working on a project with them to deal with the questions raised by, you know, the difficulties with supporting trees and greenery in these areas. One thing that is new that will help a lot is that the city of Albany is now prepared to water themselves or with a contractor trees for 2 to 3 years. And that had always been a project in starting out new trees in rental neighborhoods. So having that piece of the puzzle solved going forward, although it does cost some money, obviously, is very, very helpful. So I don't have any new news for the board, who we know this with, but I wanted to share with our members how well things are going. And I guess we're going to wait until we find out if we do get funding before we, you know, have a party and throw confetti and eat cake or whatever we might do. I think we probably just get to work on a very specific plan, which we've already talked about for those blocks. And we are excited about it, but we're not quite there yet. All right. Upper Madison Group, Marilyn Douglas.
Marilyn, if you're speaking, you're currently muted.
And your video is also off. Well,
All right, I got my sound up. Okay.
okay, all right.
I got my sound up. Okay, we had our first meeting May 10th and went over many of the things that we've accomplished as well as what needs follow-up. The first thing is the Price Chopper parking lot, and we're monitoring. We hope to have it restriped and an area to make it easier for pedestrians to walk both from Madison Avenue as you come in where cars do and try to get over to the store, as well as on the West Lawrence side to have an area where actually is for pedestrians. So we're monitoring that. As you know, there is work being done on the juniors block, which is expected to be completed by the end of the month. We're hoping that will happen. We've also asked Tresco. There's some areas around the Tresco, both the building and the concrete that really needs repair, and that's been followed up. John Hammer followed up on that, spoke with the bank, and they're going to put in a work order and get that taken care of. We have obviously we have water issues in terms of our planters. I'm not sure, Virginia, when are they?
It's supposed to be here in mid-June.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to him, but he always calls us a few days in advance.
Okay, all right. So anyway, but always and forever, watering is a tough issue. And for the planters, we're hoping that Billy Stanley will be able to water the planters on the Price Chopper block. And we have a concern because there are two rectangular planters, large planters on the juniors block, and we want to speak with the nursery to get some ideas for drought resistant plantings and whatever, but again, we can't water them, and so we're hoping that we can convince the city to help us out with that, because it really is, if we can't, then we probably can't plant in that area. Ron Szymanski is working with Virginia to update the kiosk map. Those of you who walk by will know that it's gotten pretty shabby. It's about 2 or 3 years old. And of course, those things, and it's surprising how many things do change. So we want to take care of that. We're working on the promenade area, which is the area in front of Price Chopper, or at least that's what we're calling that part now. And we really, Ron Szymanski and Roger Reed, who are the managers of that project, they really would like to purchase some of the materials, because the longer you wait, the higher the prices go. And we're hoping that once the juniors block is finished, Frank Zioli from DGS will be able to meet with a group of us so that we can discuss specifics that are going to be needed in terms of that area, what the city's going to do, what we're going to do, who's paying for what, etc. And then we would like to finalize it with a meeting involving city participants to make sure we're all on the same page. It will be important if we're going to move forward with this, because again, we need to raise money to see that it happens. Roger and Ron are going to put together a large visual so that people will be able to see what's intended for that area. And we're hoping that the meeting will happen sometime. It's all predicated on how long, I suppose, the the juniors block take, but we're hoping to have at least to have an initial meeting sometime in June. And then, as I said, a follow-up meeting well, after that, to finalize what details we can. The park, it's been spruced up. We've got to put some flowers in the circle, which is up at the west end. Linda Ruff has very generously volunteered to water that. She comes up to the area usually at least once a week and maybe once every 10 days to water that area. We've got a sprinkler system, which I've asked Joe to see if it's working and if we need anything for it. The other thing we want to do, and that will involve Rick and Ray Joyce, who did the lighting in that park, to see if we want to purchase additional lighting. But so that we're going to do that at some point, probably in the next month or so, or next few weeks. The 2 trees that mysteriously died, we think there was some sort of soil problem. We don't really know. The city forester thinks that might have been the problem. But anyway, 2 trees died and we're hoping to replace those. Let's see what else. And then there are some shabby banners, which I want to follow up with GGS and have them take those banners down. Maybe, and eventually probably all the banners will come down, because we'll probably, once the juniors block and the Price Chopper block are done, we'd probably want a whole new design and maybe get a banners or something that sort of distinguishes the area. Virginia has been in touch with Brett Sears, who's booking our bands to find out who we're going to have. Those will start the middle of July, and the concerts will be on the Monday from the beginning or from mid-July until the end of August. We're hoping to have, we bought the lawn signs that advertise the concert, so we'll be putting those out, and also ask the Elks to put some out as well. And we hope to have some publicity, and of course we're hoping to advertise on various social medias. We're also looking at an idea of finding a place possibly for a mural, as the original mural project is not going to happen for various reasons. So that's it for Upper Madison. And we'll
Can I just add,
sure.
Since Megan is here, I want to recognize her for her offer to help us apply for a grant. We did apply for ARPA grants or grant. We did not get that. But we're hoping now to apply for an Amplify Albany grant. And Megan helped us with some details about when we should apply, which would not be this year. This would be for the promenade. And since the work isn't going to start until next year, then we're looking forward to trying to get money from Amplify Albany next year, hopefully with Megan's advice. She's been very helpful so far. And then I just want to say a couple of other things. One is that this is not really an Upper Madison thing, but apparently there will be no free movie this summer at St. Rose. And that is because Jonathan Heinrich, who has all the equipment, has been working with the downtown bid. So the movies that they're showing down there will be in May and June. Then he's going away for the entire summer. And when he comes back in September, he has an idea of working with Chris Kiesling at the Madison Theater for some type of an outdoor thing. So we did put aside $400 in the Pine Hills budget for a movie, which doesn't look like we're gonna really be needing that money. And one last thing I want to say, which is a general thing, is if people have been noticing these lawn signs for student rental properties, we happen to have 2 of them across the street from us. And so I saw that there was a problem with one of the houses, and I decided to call the property manager instead of the See-Click Fix. And lo and behold, it turned out that it was our neighbors across the street who actually bought 2 of the buildings, and they put those signs in on the lawn. And then the next day after I called, they were both taken away. So I don't know exactly what that means, if they don't want anybody to complain or whatever, but I think these signs have been popping up around the city, and I just wanted to kind of give a heads up, because it seems like this is a way to avoid the code problem about permanently affixing signs to buildings. And now what they're doing is just putting on lawn signs, which I guess is legal. And that's that.
Actually, Virginia, I think that's under the same section of code. It's still a temporary sign. And the problem down in Midtown, well, many of the houses don't have lawns, but it's still, we do have signs that are not temporary in any way, shape, or form. They're on there 365 days a year, kind of the
Right,
same
it's
problem.
different. Well-
And if they were nailed to the front of the building, I doubt you'd like them any better, right? It just gives the neighborhood a bad look. I think we should
Yeah,
get
I
back
just
to
want to
that.
add,
Go ahead, Leah.
well, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, finish, and then
Well,
I'll,
we worked on a proposal to make it at least very apparent and somewhat enforceable that the signs are not supposed to be up there forever, which many of them are. And there was a little pushback from planning and council's office. We changed it a little bit, but it kind of died on the vine with a lot of other work that went through the USDO. But I think we should bring it back. And it really, as I understand it, I'm not totally sure, but I believe the same provisions for temporary signs that apply to lawn signs apply to signs that you affix to buildings that are deemed temporary, which most of these flow through. But I just wanted to raise the idea of going back to that, which I think probably we'd agree to, but we'll have to have a concerted push with city officials. Leah?
yeah, just circling back on the lawn sign issue only. The thing is that those lawn signs are showing up on property, well, on the city right of way,
Public
in
property,
front
yeah.
of, for instance, there's one on the city right of way at the corner of Myrtle and South Lake, in front of a building that is not privately owned, right? It's an RS. I'm looking down at the building right now. It's an RSS building, so it's a group home building that I'm sure that it's not owned by the people who own Virginia's neighbor across the street. So those I think just need to be like removed. Owusu, you're on the phone now. You're on, right? So you can get this taken care of. Get these freaking signs gone.
They were also, believe it or not, in Washington Park. They weren't there very long. I presume that DGS employees removed them. So it's another manifestation of the same problem, which is we can put our signs wherever we want to, and flouting of the sign law. So we should get back to that.
Well, I aside from that issue, I mean, I didn't, the reason why, in a way, I kind of liked having those signs there is because it had a phone number. And I thought, well, here's somebody local that I can call and complain about something. And somebody answered the phone and said they were going to actually fix the problem. And so I don't approve, of the way these things are put out, but I like the idea that there is somebody you can call if you have a problem, rather than have to go directly to the city. In this case, it seems to have worked because when I've done see-click fix in the past, it's been never really fixed because basically it just goes on a list and then that's about it, and I know the city is, very backed up and they don't have the staff, et cetera, et cetera. But in this particular case, I did get some person that said they were going to do something. And with C-Click Fix, as we all know, they closed the case after they notified the owner that something needs to be done.
Yeah,
That's,
when you have a phone number, it's always good, although we've talked about other things like building a registry so that we can actually contact, properties where there are problems, but it's rare that you can do that. And, we have responsible, good landlords, including those who are on our board and many that we work with, and then there are others who are not. So it is a longstanding concern and one we'd like to see handled better. Okay,
Marilyn has
on.
her hand up.
Wait,
Marilyn
she
has
does?
her hand up. She's had her hand up for a while. Yep.
She's
And
the
then Rick has
speaker.
his
She
hand
doesn't
up.
have to raise her hand.
Unmute, Marilyn.
You have to unmute though, Marilyn. You're muted.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is there any kind of a code or regulation about hedges at the corner of property? We have that here on Ridgefield going on to, what is it? Partridge, I guess. And it's a really huge hedge on the corner and you have to practically pull out into traffic before
Yes,
you.
if they're
see it.
overgrown, they can be reported and it is
Yeah.
actionable. There's a hedge in our neighborhood that too
Is
often gets out of control. Same
Yeah.
sort of situation, and but it does get taken care of.
Is that is that something that one does through click fix?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you know the neighbor, you can speak to them.
No, I don't. And no, it's someone that's only lived there a very short time and they're moving or the house is for sale anyway. But
And better
okay,
see
thanks.
quick fix, yeah.
That was it.
there's a neighborhood portal that Frank Cioli always was talking about, and it is useful. You can go to the neighborhood portal
Okay.
and go to see-click fix and look at, and there are so many other pieces of information there about buying trees and, recycling days and all that other stuff.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to mention that one other thing with the park is that we finally got the historic marker up.
Yes, I mentioned that last time. I know, it's only taken a few years, right? Okay.
Excellent. So the only committee report we haven't had out is Luke's, the community on Community and University Committee. So I'll just briefly pass on what he already passed on to me. Over 300 students participated in the Pine Hills cleanup that occurred on April 23rd. It was a big event, and a shout out to Leah for helping to organize and lead that, and to Councilman Anane, who came out and volunteered with the students. Good showing, and it's always a very good annual cleanup. And DGS and the city, of course, provided the bags, gloves, garbage pickers, as always. So a good event. The Hudson Avenue fire, the attendants were primarily or completely university students, and one individual was hospitalized but was released, and both homes had to be demolished as a result of the damage. But the displaced students are doing as well as can be expected. They were offered emergency housing, counseling, and other services. So everyone ultimately is doing okay. But Luke wanted to thank the Albany Fire Department, police, building and regulatory compliance, community development, the Red Cross, and all the first responders who reported to the scene that night. So we want to make sure we do that. Graduation had occurred over the past Thursday to Sunday. So the students have left the building for the moment. Not really. Many of them are around for the whole summer, but it's always a big change in our neighborhood when that happens. But congratulations to all the students who graduated. It's always a joy to see the families out in Washington Park after graduation ceremonies. Sometimes there are parties that occur around graduation time, as we know, but there weren't, that I know of, anything, no serious graduation party incidents. And the May CUCR meeting focused on updates from the Office of Fire Prevention and Control and the Hudson Avenue Fire. That group does not meet in June or July, and their next meeting will be August 11th. So that's the report from CUCR. So now we can go to our elected representatives. We're going to go to Megan Keegan first, because she joined us even as she was running in the corporate challenge, which is very impressive, Megan. Your dedication, considering that you only cover a very small share of our neighborhood, is to be admired. And congratulations for running the race too.
Thank
I used
you.
to have a lot of fun doing that. So to you.
And I also have to hop off because I have another meeting starting right now. So I will let Owusu do most of our updates, and I apologize if I'm not able to stay on to answer questions. A couple of things that are coming down the pike on the council. I did, for those of you who may not have realized it, the legislature did change the open meetings law in the state budget. That requires for each local municipality to pass its own local law, and the ability for public boards to meet virtually expires as of June 8th, which is a date that is coming up very quickly. So at our last meeting, I did introduce legislation that not only will allow for sort of hybrid participation for the council, but for all of our public boards, and provides for reciprocity for members of the public who wish to comment publicly from a virtual format. So you all should have access to the language that's in that legislation and should be coming up for a vote in our June meeting. But as of June 8th, all public boards throughout the state of New York will have to return to some version of an in-person meeting. And also we met, the Public Safety Committee met last night. There was certainly some progress made on the police reform bill that is local law C. It appears that the Public Safety Commissioner position is going to be pulled out of that legislation, and there will be a separate bill, local law F, that will clearly define that position that was in the budget for this current fiscal year. I would anticipate that particular component of the legislation will likely be voted out of committee sooner rather than later, while the Public Safety Committee continues to kind of deliberate on local law C. But I think there has been some really good progress made towards finalizing that legislation. And I'll leave the rest of everything that's going on to Owusu to update. Have a good night, everyone. Sorry.
Thanks for joining us, Megan. Owusu.
Yes, good evening to everyone. First, I just want to just touch a little bit based on the violence that we're seeing in April. I'm not going to go into too much details. I know the Officer Koviva probably spoke about it, and others have spoke about it. But I share similar commitment to this neighborhood that many of us care about. We love this neighborhood, and what's happened in the past couple of weeks is quite frankly unacceptable. We've all spoke to the police chief and spoken to the mayor about this issue. And you know, they have promised that moving forward, we're going to see a little bit more, you know, it's not even more about police presence now. I think we have to really look at what's happening to our society as a whole, right? It's not just the Albany issue. I think we're having issue all across our state, you know, across our country, and that this pandemic has really hurt so many people with mental health issues starting to come out, and also individuals that just want to inflict pain and violence on others. You know, I want to thank the detectives that got on top of it right away with the crime that took place on Patrick. And it sends a clear message that this type of behavior would not be acceptable in our neighborhood. And I want to thank all the police officers and detectives who were involved to capture this individual. But again, I share my commitment to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe. I've spoken to the mayor about this, and I think that as elected officials, if we cannot keep our neighborhoods safe, what are we really doing? I think that should be the top priority in all neighborhoods all across our city. Legislatively, I'm working on the tree legislation where this legislation would, the city will bear the full cost of tree planting when a tree is removed. And currently, as it states that if a tree is removed for a tree to be replanted again, the property owner has to do a 50% split with the city. And the city idea of doing this is to kind of have some stake, particularly in the neighborhood, and making sure that trees are being planted and not neglected. My legislation is going to make sure that whenever a tree is removed, that the city is planted one at a full cost by the city. We see in some parts of our neighborhood where we have transient tenants and also absentee landlords, the onus is going to be on the city to plant a tree. And if they don't want a tree planted, that property owner could write a letter to the city saying that they don't want a tree planted. But I think that this is a step in the right direction. It was going to be passed last Monday's meeting, but there are some people that expressed to me that they would like to see notifications made to the county council when a tree is being removed or a tree is being planted. And I agree. I think it's maybe a quarterly report talking about how many trees in the neighborhood are being removed or how many trees are being planted. So just to kind of keep the council involved when it comes to trees in our neighborhood or just in the city as a whole. There is a barbershop that has opened. It's called Golden Cuts, and they plan to have a ribbon cutting on June 12th. I'm going to send out details about that ribbon cutting. I know he has reached out to the mayor, and the mayor has shown commitment to be at the ribbon cutting. And also at the ribbon cutting, they're going to be an after party event at the Madison Park, where it's going to have like barbecue and a whole host of other things and giveaways. So we're looking forward to that. In June, there will be, similar to what I do annually, a cleanup in the Midtown Pine Hills neighborhood. That's going to take place, most solely focused on the cleanup after the college students leave. I know there's going to be some couches that are left. There's going to be some other debris that are left that we just want to make sure that we're cleaning it. Going to be working with DGS on that front and other elected officials, particularly on the county level, Barrero, and also Matt Peter and the rest of the crew. So that is it for now. Megan touched on some of the other legislations that's happening in the city, but look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues and move our neighborhood forward.
Excellent.
Where is the barber shop, Owusu?
It's exactly where the Fixed Cafe used to be. I think it's 850.
Yeah. Well, let's hope they get to stay there a little longer than the previous tenants and those before them even. Or three of them. There was a hamburger, and then there was the Italian guy, and then there was the Fix, and now it's the whatever the barbershop is.
Virginia, I've got information already, and now they starting off a little bit rocky for me, and I think it's the property owner.
Yeah, I think so.
He invited me to the ribbon cutting, and he told me about all the stuff that's happening since he opened, and I'm like, you know what, I might not even go to this ribbon cutting, but I will go. I think it's something with the landlord. He's an absentee landlord. Let's face it. When something happens, although he works at Albany Med, it's crazy. It's like when there's something that needs to be fixed within the property, he just drags his feet. It usually takes 3 months. The heat wasn't working. It took about 2 months just to get that fixed. And the owner is already complaining about the relationship that he has with management, also the property owner. So it's like deja vu, but I hope they get to figure it out.
Okay.
We have a few people with hands up for questions. So I just wanted a quick one on the legislation you mentioned. And I think we saw this a long time ago. This is for trees that die or are removed, right? And so it makes a charge on the city. But there was one part you said if the owner of the property doesn't want a tree there, they can write a letter and not have it there. These trees are in in the city property and right of way, right? I guess I question that. When we look at, for example, the project we're planning here on Hudson and on Quail, hopefully if we get funding, trees are going to go in. It's not going to be, do you want or not want? Because if we did that, a lot of landlords, they don't care. Why should I want one? I might have to, do something different there. So anyway, I just raised that as something to think about going forward. Perhaps it wouldn't conflict in this legislation. I don't know, but it's something to think about.
Thank you.
Leah, you have a question? And Marilyn after you. And Virginia,
Well, I was
you're
the
done,
last
right?
one. I was the last one to raise my hand, so I think it should be the other two first than me.
I think
honestly,
Virginia
I was the
already
last one to
asked
raise
her
my hand.
question. Virginia says come down.
Yeah, I'm
But if you-
done. I'm finished. I just have to put my
Okay.
hand down.
All right, go ahead, Marilyn. But you remember to unmute yourself.
Yes, I actually am unmuted. It takes me a little while. Owusu, the watering business. Sergio spoke to us at one of our neighborhood meetings it's got to be a couple of years ago now. And we talked about it. We brought it up as an issue, and it's incredibly expensive. We've talked to this Central Avenue bid people and various other people, and it's just very costly. I mean, we're prepared to buy the.
Can I jump in here, Marilyn? 'Cause,
Yeah.
one thing that's changed, as I reported when we discussed the potential ARPA grant, is that DGS now says they can water trees. Or
right.
through contract. So I looked over to the cost estimates that we got from Frank Zioli. And for a tree for 2 to 3 years, the estimated cost is $250. So that's not nothing certainly, but it's very affordable, in comparison to the past. I'm like, well, we have no solution in each application. So I would hope that would
That's positive.
change the
Yes.
situation you've been in the past with DGS. I don't know.
Well,
I didn't mean to steal fire, but that's very new, what we're hearing from DGS now than what we used to hear.
Yes, our concern is the planters. We did the Albany Park Authority has given us the planters. We've paid for the flowers, and we have to contract with someone, as I mentioned in my report. We have to contract with someone to water the planters, and then of course it's almost impossible for us to water the rectangular beds that the city put in many years ago. Again, we bought flowers and planted them, and for a while, we had hit and miss volunteers, but that's the tough part. And even when I don't know whether or not they're going to put in hanging baskets. In fact, Owusu, I'll ask you that question, whether we're going to get hanging baskets, but DGS comes down the street, waters the hanging baskets, and we've had planters underneath, and yet we have to water them. And it's just a strange and difficult situation. That's one question I have. And then the other one is just completely off the target, off what we're talking about. But Owusu, do you have any comments about water?
Do you have any comments regarding watering Upper Madison?
Well, just the whole issue of yes, watering planters and that kind of thing, or whatever, especially neighborhood associations, I would imagine, would be encouraged to, beautify their streetscape if there were a solution to the watering issue. So
yeah, I think Department of General Services is starting to understand the type of neighborhood association we are, that we're engaged, and we would like to see the neighborhood beautified. I think it's something that maybe we should revisit. When I met Sergio Panuzzi a couple of years ago, and also Frank Zioli a couple of years ago, and we talked about some of the things that we wanted to get done, there was some hesitation, but I'm starting to see a little bit now they're a little bit more receptive to some of the recommendations that maybe I put forward or other neighbors put forward. So that's something that maybe we need to revisit and kind of talk about it a little bit more with them.
Yeah, I think it's all, it's all part of the quality of life in the neighborhood. And yeah, now my other question, which has nothing to do with anything, but I'm just wondering, as you're a man in the know, if you know what might be happening with the University Club building down on, what's it, Hawk? No, is it Hawk Street? I forget.
I
No,
think
I
it's
forget.
Dove.
You know where I
It's
mean.
Dove in Washington. Oh, do you
Dove
mean
in
the one in
Washington.
back of it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Business for Good is a nonprofit down in Saratoga, and they've been doing a lot of donations to several nonprofits across our city. Particularly, they just gave one to $75,000 to Rise. For that building, I'm hearing that the Upstate Chamber of Commerce and the Capital District Black Chambers of Commerce are supposed to partner together to open, to own that building, actually.
Oh, good.
These like a business hub for individuals who are interested in opening a business, or it would be similar to like a chamber of commerce, but it's going to gear towards minorities and diverse groups in our communities.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
and
knew
they
you-
received a $350,000 grant from Business for Good, which is an organization, a nonprofit that maybe we need to start targeting to try to see if we could get some funds for them. The gentleman, Ed Mitson, he's just been so generous all across the city and the capital region. So that's somebody that maybe we need to contact and just say we're doing some good stuff.
Get them to come to a meeting.
Yeah, Business for Good. That's the gentleman's. Business for Good is a nonprofit, and just even recently, they just gave $1 million to some organization. Blues by Marie got a contribution. Ali B's. They're becoming really generous.
Well, yeah, sounds good. Oh, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good news. Leah?
Okay, yeah, but so I'll be quick. I just want you to know what we do. Actually, as you know, that it's not just folks in the neighborhood association. It's not just us that are clamoring for trees. My next door neighbor, who you know has been asking you for a while, I ran into her yesterday and she gave me an earful. And I told her, I said, he just reintroduced his tree legislation. I saw. So, she was happy with that, but she, first of all, I'm trying to get her to join the neighborhood association, but second of all, she's definitely, she's like, every time she sees anyone, she's asking them. So anyway, thank you for pushing on the trees. And also I wanted to thank you, unrelated to the neighborhood association, but I want to thank you and County Legislator Nathan Bruschi from Colony for that great op-ed that was in the paper recently in support of the Crash Victim Rights and Safety Act, and just really appreciate that. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for all that you do. And also with helping with drafting the editorial. And then I also want to speak about the trees because it's so important. When the mayor first, when I first introduced it and the mayor was like, you know what, we have 2,025 trees that are going to be planted. I was like, okay, great. Maybe I should hold this legislation. But the mayor was focused on communities that have been neglected for years. And I'm just like, oh man, like sometimes I forget, she's looking at things from the equity lens. So it's like the South and West Auburn Hill neighborhood is getting close to 2,000 trees already. So I was like, you know what, we have to reintroduce it because I'm not sure when it's going to come to our neighborhood, but yeah. And the
soon.
letter, thank you.
The answer is soon.
Soon, yeah.
She did hold the press conference in our neighborhood.
In our neighborhood.
Yeah,
So,
she
in our
held it on my block because Kyle's been going nuts. And Kyle, who moved here from the South End or Arbor Hill when we had a tree-lined street, and it is no longer a tree-lined street. And I hear it every time I see her.
But honestly, I do think attitudes are changing toward trees, and that legislation helped. Owusu's legislation would help as well. The grants would help if we get them. But I don't think, I'm hopeful that in talking about watering and other things, we'll just have a less of a heavy lift because they recognize that they have to do it, that it's not something that, a few people who meet every couple of weeks can do. Water is very difficult to deliver if you don't have the equipment. And as you said, Marilyn, it's very much a part of neighborhood quality. So let's hope, keep our fingers crossed. Do you have another question, Marilyn, or is your hand jumped
Yes,
off?
yeah, I see that Eric is on the call, so I have to mention the double polls. In fact, there was a thing in the paper the other day that someone was complaining about the National Grid, and my understanding is that it's National Grid that has to remove those. Is that correct?
Are you asking Eric? Are you asking Owusu? Who are you
No,
asking?
I'm asking anyone who may know I just was under the assumption that that's a National Grid issue, and I
So,
guess.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Joe, are you on? I know what I know from a few years ago, but I don't know if Joe Aquaviva may have more up-to-date info, or Owusu if he's still on.
Yeah, each utility has to move their stuff. The last time,
Exactly.
the first couple ones that were across the street from my house, which were finally picked up by Verizon, took the last piece of the pole down, which was probably half the pole once it all been cut up. So, but yeah, this is it's a constant thing. That, it's just a constant thing. The city has to keep up on each of these utilities to get it done. Somebody's got to do it, and they do disappear eventually. So just keep reminding them.
Yeah, I can get an
Yeah, I think
update of why, but I was under the same impression. The poles actually belong to either the phone company or National Grid, and so therefore it's their responsibility to take them out. But the last I heard, there's no rush for them because it costs them money to take them out.
No, it's all, they're not billing anybody for that except themselves. Yeah. So they can't,
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely last, when they have nothing else to do. So,
Yeah,
but it's
I
gotta
think,
be
I mean,
reminded.
the city was getting on their case a few years ago, and I know they did finally get rid of some double poles that were on my block a few years ago, but I think what Joe and what Eric said is correct, that's my understanding too, except that I do believe that once all the stuff is down, then it's National Grid that takes it down. I do believe it's Grid that takes down the poles. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's their responsibility.
Yeah, maybe this is something that we can ask DGS to follow up on, citywide, because there's got to be hundreds. And, maybe they have a monthly call with these guys, or send them the list every month and say it hasn't changed any, or it's gone up by 100. You need to get to work. Yeah, because they'll certainly send you a bill, and they like putting all the cans up for the 5G and all that stuff. They didn't have any problem doing that stuff, but taking can't get an old pole taken out, No, they have plenty of money. They can go take the poles down. And you're right. It's the same thing as having trees, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the same. In the end, it's the same. It just doesn't look good.
Right.
So
I got it, yeah.
Well, we should take pictures and make a collage of all the places where
Yeah.
there are double poles. In fact, and there's that piece in the paper, what's it called? Getting There. I guess it's sort of questions to DOT, and there was a comment there about the double poles. A woman had written in something.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
Eric is not the only one who's concerned with this. Indeed, we all are. It looks sloppy. It's a sign that,
yeah, it's just,
things
it
are not
reflects
great.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reflects back on us and the neighborhood, right? And if it looks
Yes.
dumpy, then that's, then it's their job, like I said, to clean them up. And
Well-
they just
Well,
got to
how
get
come-
reminded. So
Well, how come when they put up a pole Why don't they take down why does it stay?
Because they don't unless we make them, basically. We
Well, I
are
think
running a
it's-
little bit late
Yeah,
at the
I'm
moment. I'd
sorry.
like to get a membership report if we could, since Will is here.
Sure, sorry,
And-
all right.
And no,
I'll shut up.
it's not bad. It's just that we're
No,
we are
I'll
running a
shut
little.
up.
But we are, the other thing I wanted to mention, both that Will and Jay are here, we're trying to get together a meeting of the communications group next week. So Will, we haven't heard you on the doodle poll, but it looks like Monday, the 23rd at 7 right now, although there's one person who can't make it. So Will, if you could fill out the doodle poll when you got it. Or you could tell me now you're okay with Monday, 23rd at 7 p.m.
That sounds fine to me.
Danielle said she could be there, not that necessarily you have the same schedule. Great. All right, so I can
Yeah.
set that meeting. So I got to leave.
That's next Monday?
Yes, this coming
Yep.
Monday.
That's fine.
Look
So
at
how's
John
membership doing?
putting on the pressure.
Well, I just saw you both here and I said, better check the doodle poll. And it looks like only, it's very hard to get everyone there. Ron won't be able to attend on Monday, but if we don't do it that night, we really can't do it for another month or so. So I think we better get it started, get you to take things over, Jay, so they'll move forward. I want to disgorge before I disappear for a couple of weeks in June. So anyway, back to Will for membership.
Yeah, so I was able to get a master list of all members since I've started back together. I had put it separated out a lot. So it looks like in total, we've made contact with about 150 people. And thus far, we're at about 60 paid members for this year. And I'll put out another email this weekend because it started to slow down a bit, although we did get a new member recently. So that's good. In addition to a couple of renewed members.
I
But
know who
yeah,
that was, and I'll take credit for that one.
okay.
Not that we're counting, but I often make the point to our board members and others, if you know someone who's in the neighborhood and should join, as Leah was talking about her neighbor early, put a little friendly persuasion on them, because getting people participating is really the most important thing.
So other than that, not a huge update. Unless anyone has any questions.
Well, do we have any of the rack cards still available? Anybody got them?
Do not have them.
Rick, do you have any left over, or did they all
I
go?
think there's a few left at the theater in the
Oh,
lobby.
I have a
I have
very
a few,
small
but I'm gonna,
supply.
I
I'm sorry,
haven't
what?
finished giving them out yet. And I also think we should save some for the summer concerts because that's a good place to hand them out. But I think that unless they're gonna be revised, we should probably get some more.
printing.
Yeah, we could probably do another printing. That's actually have it on my mind. I don't know if I put it in the Zoom poll, but that's something we should talk about, is getting a reprint of that. And other things too, as we've discussed, having some kind of a printed, we're doing electronic newsletters, moving in that way, but doing something that would be a slightly longer flyer telling neighbors the sort of things we do and what's going on. All right, more to come on that. I'm beginning to think we're concluded. Is that possible, everyone?
Theater Voices was supposed to do camping with Henry and Tom, a mythical camping trip with Henry Ford and Thomas Edison. But unfortunately, one of the cast members got COVID. So that's been moved to June 10th, 10, 11, 12. Yes, welcome to my life. You plan it all out and then it goes poof.
It's happening to many theatrical productions. You're not alone.
Oh, it certainly is.
and to many meetings. The Mendelssohn Club had a performance. I think it was Friday night, and then an after party at AOH, and quite a few of them are down. So it's still happening. Luckily, nobody seems to be getting seriously ill in all I've heard of, but it's just going around. And
We found this
And I-
one may have been traced back to his grandson, a 1-year-old who probably got it at the doctor's office, and then to his father, and then to his grandfather. It's like, sometimes the contact tracing is insane.
when it's done, when it can be done, I mean, often it's not at all anymore. I think you came in late, but I started the meeting by saying we'll be continuing virtually through our next and last meeting of the spring, which is in June. But we're hoping we can get back together in the fall. And actually, in talking with the library, last I talked to them, they were still allowing meetings, but not at a very super high density in their rooms. They were requiring masks. Now they're not. So, things can change and go either way. But what seems to be happening, and maybe I'm not into it, but just people are saying, well, I know it's around, and some people are wearing masks in the store, some are not. I don't know. We'll have to see where we are in the fall, but I do think it's continuing to hurt us not to, have any meetings in person. So we'll just see where we are. I will not be here, by the way, in June unless the trip I'm going with my son doesn't happen. It could happen. He's busy finishing up his doctoral program in physics. So, that could intervene. That's more important actually than going to a few national parks out west. Or is it? No. But I am not expecting to be here in June. So Leah will be chairing the next meeting, as she's quite capable of doing. But Leah, you may have to figure out the speaker as well. The time is getting short. We still have Brian Viglucci, hopefully, who might come in and give his perspective on neighborhood business. And well, if you want, I'll make that request because I have to reach out and find out what happened tonight. I suspect the basketball game went wrong or started. Oops, now I gave it up. But so that's it for tonight, unless there are any other last words. Seeing none, I'm going to say good night, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us.
Yes.